Hey everyone, ready for a deep dive into the entertainment industry? You've given us a really interesting mix of sources, this time your notes, and also access to a recent Zoom call.
Yeah, some real industry pros on that one.
Oh, yeah, some serious heavy hitters. Our mission today is to cut through all the noise and figure out what's really going on in entertainment. Like, is it really all doom and gloom?
Like everyone's saying,
Exactly,
yeah,
doom scrolling. Or are there actually some hidden opportunities out there?
that's what we're going to find out.
By the end of this deep dive, you'll have a much clearer picture of where things are headed and, more importantly, how you can thrive. Whether you're out there hunting for a job right now,
Or thinking about switching careers.
even if you're just insanely curious.
Always a good thing.
Absolutely. So you know what makes this deep dive so unique?
Tell me.
We're going way beyond like the typical data,
Yeah.
the analyst reports.
Yeah.
We're getting firsthand insights from the people who are actually out there,
Shaping the future.
shaping the industry,
Yeah. Yeah.
navigating these changes in real time.
And I have to say, their perspectives are fascinating.
Forget about those think tanks everyone keeps sharing on LinkedIn. We're going straight to the source.
The trenches.
The trenches, exactly, raw and unfiltered.
Exactly.
Now, your notes paint a picture of an industry that's really in flux right now. We've got evolving audience habits.
Of course.
The streaming wars are still raging on economic shifts. And then on top of all of that, AI is thrown in the mix.
Definitely feels like a whirlwind.
Yeah, a lot of chatter about layoffs and cutbacks, but it doesn't feel like a dying industry.
Not at all.
New opportunities are emerging.
100%. It's not a simple decline. It's more like a shift. The entertainment industry isn't actually shrinking.
Right.
It's changing shape.
It's shifting.
Yeah, some traditional media companies are downsizing. That's true.
Right.
But content creation itself
Yeah,
is booming.
absolutely. And we saw this reflected in the Zoom call. One speaker said, and this number blew my mind, Nielsen reports there are over 823,000 series. What available to watch right now?
That's incredible.
I know. Think about that.
That's a lot of content.
823,000.
Wow. And they also said 70% of what people are actually watching is library content.
So it's not even all new stuff.
Bro.
It's stuff that's already out there.
Exact.
Add in all the feature films and the global market.
It's huge.
The demand for content is massive.
It really is.
So the question everyone's asking, is there even work out there?
Right.
The answer is yes,
Ooh, yeah,
but it's more nuanced than that.
definitely.
It's not just is there work, it's where is the work and how do you fit in?
Exactly.
Yep.
And thankfully, that Zoom call gave us some major clues.
Yeah.
Big takeaway, follow the money.
Interesting.
But more importantly,
Okay.
follow the audience.
Yeah, okay.
Several speakers pointed to some specific growth areas. Fast channels,
Okay.
experiential marketing,
Interesting.
sports marketing, and then content creation for financial services,
What?
but aimed at Gen X and millennials.
Now this is where it gets really interesting.
I know, right?
Because these professionals are looking outside the traditional entertainment bubble for growth.
Exactly. They're thinking outside the box.
Let's break down each of these areas.
Love it. Let's unpack it.
First up, fast channels. Free ad-supported streaming television.
Catchy. Right.
It is. And they seem to be tapping into this shift back to more traditional viewing habits.
Especially among boomers.
Ah, interesting.
They control a lot of wealth.
They do. They do.
So think about this. If you're targeting that demographic,
Okay.
expertise in marketing to older audiences, creating targeted content,
Yeah.
and navigating the advertising-driven model.
Right.
Super valuable.
Makes total sense.
Okay, what's next?
Experiential marketing. Brands are really trying to forge deeper connections with consumers these days.
Yeah, they need to cut through the noise somehow.
So we're seeing a surge in events and activations.
Absolutely. And that opens up all kinds of opportunities for people with design, production.
Event management.
Oh, yeah, event management for sure.
Yeah.
Think immersive installations, interactive pop-ups.
Like all those cool pop-up museums you see on Instagram.
Exactly. It's about creating an experience that people want to share.
Totally. Okay, next up we have sports marketing. And this is another area that's changing so rapidly.
It's not just about watching games anymore.
It's so much more than that now. Teams are building their own networks, creating content around athletes' personal brands.
And they're finding new ways to monetize fan engagement.
It's a whole new ballgame.
I like that. A whole new ballgame.
See what I did there? Okay, but seriously, this is a hotbed for content creators, marketers.
Brand strategists.
Yes, people with expertise in sports, digital media, and those fan communities.
They also talked about NIL on the call.
Name, image, likeness.
Yep, it's adding a whole other layer of complexity and opportunity.
I'm seeing a pattern here, a shift from broad mass market content
to more niche,
targeted offerings.
and that requires a totally different skill set and mindset.
Okay, last but not least, we've got financial services content.
Now, this one surprised me.
I know, right? And as you mentioned, Gen X is inheriting a ton of wealth from boomers.
But
Their content consumption habits, they're totally different.
night and day.
One speaker said, and I quote, "Financial institutions need to ditch those stuffy annual reports and create more visual, engaging content."
They need to get with the times.
I know, right? Content that actually resonates with this audience.
So if you've got skills in visual storytelling, digital marketing,
And if you can understand those complex financial concepts.
you'll be in high demand.
This is already making me rethink my whole LinkedIn profile.
It's a good time to refresh it.
It is. It is.
Mm.
And speaking of standing out, another major theme that came up was this idea of angularity.
Ah, yes, angularity. This is about finding that unique combination of
Scurient
and passion.
that makes you stand out in a crowded marketplace.
It talked about finding your superpower.
And then seeing where it intersects with what the industry needs.
It's a great way to think about it.
I think in the past, a lot of creatives just waited for the brief to come to them, sat back and waited.
But now you really have to be proactive.
You gotta hustle.
Figure out what problems need solving
What stories aren't being told?
and develop your thought leadership.
You gotta be the solution.
That's how you make your own opportunities in such a rapidly changing landscape.
And they shared some really inspiring examples on the call.
Oh, yeah, Hayes, for
A
example.
former marketing EVP.
He shared how his deep understanding of that over 65 demographic makes him super valuable for fast channels targeting that audience.
That's smart.
And then there was Michelle with her background in print and key art
She's gotta love sports.
and great operational skills.
She could be amazing in that world of sports marketing and branded content.
And then we had Alex.
So passionate about mid-budget films.
And he really gets those older adult audiences.
He could carve out a real thought leadership position on how to market and distribute those films more effectively.
It's so inspiring to see people leaning into their strengths and blazing their own trails. The key takeaway here is they're not just relying on their past experience
They're connecting their existing skills to those emerging trends.
and the market needs.
Yes. Okay, we've got a lot to unpack here. I think it's time to dive into the next big takeaway from this call, the importance of adaptability, upskilling.
And networking.
It's not enough to just be good at what you used to do.
You have to evolve
Embrace those new technologies.
and network strategically.
Not desperately.
Exactly. Cynthia had a great line.
Oh, yeah. What was it?
She said, you have to upskill to stay relevant.
Oh, yeah. She was talking about how camera operators need to transition into those virtual production roles.
Such a good example.
That's adapting to new technologies and staying ahead of the curve.
You have to be a lifelong learner
Continually update that skill set.
and embrace the new.
It's like they say, what's the only constant change? Okay, so what does all of this mean for you, the listener? What's standing out to you so far?
Think about those specific growth areas we discussed. How do your skills and interests align with these trends?
Because the entertainment industry is undergoing a fascinating transformation.
Totally agree. There's uncertainty, for sure.
Right.
There's also incredible potential for those who are willing to adapt, think strategically, and really embrace this new landscape.
We've covered a lot of ground in this first part of our deep dive.
Yeah.
From the changing nature of the industry, the importance of personal branding,
Proactive networking.
absolutely, to the evolving role of creativity, the rise of specialization, and the impact of AI.
It's a lot to process.
It is. It is. But we've pulled out some seriously valuable insights from your research in that Zoom call.
Absolutely.
But there's more. In the next part, we'll dive into some surprising comments from these industry veterans.
Their thoughts on personal branding and proactive networking were really insightful.
Stay tuned.
Welcome back. All right, so let's dig into some of those more nuanced points that came up on that Zoom call.
Okay, yeah.
One thing that really struck me was how many speakers emphasized personal branding.
Even if they didn't use those exact words.
Exactly. It wasn't about, posting selfies or
Yeah.
becoming some kind of influencer.
Right.
It was more about understanding your unique value.
And being able to articulate that clearly.
Cynthia, the personal branding expert,
Oh, yes, she is great.
she had a great way of putting it.
I'm curious.
She said, if you hang around a barbershop long enough, eventually you get a haircut.
Okay.
And her point was, you have to be present,
Engage.
visible within your network.
So it's not enough to just have a killer LinkedIn profile.
Nope, got to go beyond that.
You have to actively participate in those conversations.
Share your insights.
Build relationships.
Exactly. It's about shifting from that passive mindset
to a more proactive approach.
So you got to create opportunities.
Not just wait for them to magically appear.
Several speakers echoed that. They weren't waiting for that perfect job posting.
Right.
They were reaching out to people, exploring different avenues.
Creating their own luck.
And it's not just about networking for the sake of networking. You know?
Right.
It's about being genuinely curious, connecting with people who share your interests, and building those mutually beneficial relationships.
One speaker even said, and I'm quoting here, "Don't troll for a job,
I like that.
but reach out to your connections to see what they're up to, where they're working, what's exciting them." It was more about gathering information
And building those relationships.
than like a desperate job search.
I love that. It highlights how important it is to stay connected and informed.
Even when you're not actively looking.
You never know where those conversations might lead.
So true. Okay, so we've talked about personal branding, proactive networking. What else stood out to you from that Zoom call?
Well, there were a few comments that really got me thinking about how creativity is evolving in this industry.
Oh, interesting.
Linda, the former creative director, talked about how her experience in key art has totally changed.
Oh, yeah. What did she say?
She said it's not just about creating beautiful images anymore.
It's more than that now.
You have to understand how those images function in a digital landscape.
Capturing attention in a split second.
She talked about needing to be more concise, impactful, strategic.
Wow.
It's a great example of how those traditional creative skills are being adapted to meet the demands of today's media landscape.
That reminds me of what Staff said about transitioning from writing and directing.
To editing,
He actually saw editing as another way to tell stories.
but in a more concise and impactful way.
Interesting.
It shows how creators are finding new ways to apply their skills.
Adapt.
And it also speaks to the growing importance of visual storytelling,
Even in fields that might not traditionally be considered visual.
like financial services.
Like that's
Remember, we were talking about that earlier, creating engaging content for Gen X.
right. It all connects.
It's a skill that's becoming super valuable across all industries.
Not just entertainment.
And creatives with experience in visual media.
They're in a great position to capitalize on that.
So basically, we're seeing a shift in how creativity is being applied.
More strategic,
Concise.
visual storytelling.
And that requires a willingness to adapt, learn new skills.
Think outside the box.
Exactly.
Another thing that came up was this idea that the entertainment industry, and maybe even the world, is moving away from those one-size-fits-all solutions.
Oh, yeah, towards more specialized niche approaches.
Make like a complete 180 from the mass market mentality,
To a more personalized.
targeted approach,
It's happening everywhere. From content creation.
to marketing.
Think about those fast channels like what Hayes was talking about.
INSP, that over 65 crowd,
They're not trying to be everything to everyone.
they're laser focused on a specific audience,
Tailoring their content.
and that focus lets them really connect.
And it's not just content creation.
Marketing and branding are changing too.
Think about Michelle and her interest in sports marketing.
She was saying that different segments of the sports fan base have different needs and interests.
Like with NIL.
Name, image, and likeness.
It's creating new opportunities for athletes to connect with fans in a whole new way.
So it's about moving away from those broad stroke marketing campaigns.
And getting much more granular.
It's fascinating to see how this shift towards specialization is impacting everything.
The types of content being created
How it's marketed.
and how it's consumed.
It creates a whole new set of challenges and opportunities.
For sure. So we've covered a lot. Personal branding,
The evolving nature of creativity.
the rise of specialization.
But there's one more major theme that emerged that I really want to explore,
Oh, you're talking about technology.
specifically AI.
The impact of AI on the entertainment industry.
It's the buzzword of the moment.
Everyone's got an opinion.
Let's see what these industry insiders had to say about it. Okay, so AI. It's everywhere you turn these days.
The buzzword of the moment. But what does it really mean for someone working in entertainment? That's the question.
Exactly. And I think the Zoom call gave us some really interesting and maybe even surprising perspectives on it.
Yeah, a lot of different opinions,
It's definitely some fear and uncertainty in the room.
which makes sense.
AI is developing so fast.
I think Ali, she had that long career at Sony, really voiced those concerns.
What did she say?
Well, she's trying to figure out where she fits in now with this new technology.
All right.
She acknowledged that AI could change some jobs.
Yeah.
But she also seemed optimistic about the potential for AI to create new opportunities.
Okay, so it's not all doom and gloom.
Not necessarily. It's a tricky balance to figure out.
For sure. And Ivan, he was running a content studio. He brought up a fascinating point.
Oh, yeah. What was that?
He's actually using generative AI right now.
Really?
Writing short stories, experimenting with it.
Interesting.
But he said it's not as simple as just hitting a button and getting a finished product.
Right.
He actually spends more time prompting the AI and then rewriting what it gives him.
So more of a tool than a replacement.
At least for now.
Yeah, for now.
Yeah.
AI can be helpful for brainstorming, exploring ideas,
Right?
but it's not going to replace human creativity anytime soon. It still needs that human touch to guide it, refine the output, make sure it aligns with the creative vision,
So maybe it's more of a collaborator.
than a competitor.
Interesting way to look at it.
And Cynthia, the personal branding guru,
Oh, yeah.
she brought it back to our own careers, emphasizing how important upskilling is in the age of AI.
And she used the example of camera operators needing to learn those new skills in virtual production.
To stay relevant, right?
Exactly. And I think this actually highlights a larger trend that we keep coming back to.
What's that?
The need to be a lifelong learner.
Oh, yeah.
Constantly update your skills and embrace new technologies.
AI is just one example of that.
The entertainment industry is always changing.
Always.
And the people who are willing to adapt, those are the ones who are going to thrive.
100%.
So if we bring all of this back to you, the listener,
Back to you.
the key takeaway here is don't panic about AI taking over your job tomorrow,
Right.
but do be aware of its potential impact, be prepared to adapt, and keep learning those new skills.
Explore how AI can actually help you in your work.
Experiment, don't be afraid.
Exactly.
Wow, we've covered so much ground in this deep dive.
I know it's been a whirlwind.
From the changing nature of the industry, the importance of personal branding and networking,
The evolution of creativity.
the rise of specialization, and then, of course, AI.
We've really packed it in.
But I think we pulled out some seriously valuable insights from your research and that Zoom call.
Absolutely. And remember, this is just the beginning of your deep dive.
So true.
We've given you the map, but it's up to you to explore, connect these insights to your own goals.
Your aspirations.
Make it your own.
Here's a final thought for you to ponder as you continue on this journey.
Okay.
All of the speakers on that call were pretty senior level.
Yeah, further along in their careers.
What does this shift in the entertainment landscape mean for someone who's just starting out? What new paths and opportunities might open up for those who are willing to think differently, embrace new technologies,
Forge their own path.
and create their own definition of success? It's something to think about as you navigate this crazy, exciting world of entertainment.
It's a wild ride, that's for sure.
But it's a ride worth taking.